Back to the main story. My young brother, who was a doctor, passed away early. On a Christmas night he came home, and when he got out of the car he had a gun pointed at his head. There were 3 guys who hustled him into the house. They had his wife and his 2 kids tied up in the living room. What they wanted was for my brother to open up his safe in the basement. My brother said there was nothing in there. My brother always carried a .32 pistol with him between the office and home. He kept one blank to scare people off. The rest of the slots were real bullets. They said if he didn't open the safe, they were going to rape his wife. So he agreed to go to the basement and open the safe. He was so nervous he couldn't get it open, so he told them the combination and they opened it. Of course, there was nothing in it. My brother said he had the money from the office in his coat pocket, so they went upstairs and he got his coat and pulled out the .32 pistol and started firing. The head guy returned fire with a .38 pistol. He fired 5 shots into my brother, who ran into his kitchen. He could hear the guy reloading, so he waited for him to come through the door. The basement door was right by the dining room door. When the guy came running through, my brother shoved him down the cellar steps, slammed the door, and ran out the back door. Jumped over the fence and collapsed in the middle of the street. He did live, but was never the same, and passed away later from a heart problem. What we found out was that my mother moved $25,000 from a bank in Philadelphia, and the woman who took care of my mother told her family about the move, and her son was one of the robbers, that they thought the money was in his safe. Recall. Since gasoline was rationed, our band walked to other high schools for the football games. I also belonged to a drum and bugle corps. I played drums and bugles. We went to the competitions all over. One of them was in Asbury Park. We arrived at the hotel. A big storm rode in. I was standing out on the porch of the hotel, and I saw this big ship coming towards the shore, and it was on fire. People were jumping overboard. It was tragedy. The name of the ship was the Mara Castle. What an experience. In 1939, we went to the World's Fair in New York City. TV was just coming out. We got to be on TV and had a great time. Harry James was the band playing at the fair. When I came back from the war, Jude and I immediately got married. We got married in the chapel of the Episcopal Church in Trenton. We got on the train and headed to New York City for our honeymoon. We went to the Hotel Pennsylvania but couldn't get a room. So here we are, 2 kids married looking for a room. We finally found a hotel on the side street and got a room. The next day we went to Longchamp's restaurant in the Empire State Building. We had champagne cocktails and shrimp cocktails. Then we went to Radio City to see the show. We didn't stay in New York too long. We stopped at a nightclub in Teaneck, New Jersey, owned by a fellow shipmate. We were treated like royalty, great night, and then headed home to Trenton. I was stationed at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. I took a train every day from Trenton to New York. I was a torpedoman third class and could type, so they made me Master of Arms of the 4th Naval District. That put me in charge of all liberty for both the Navy and the Marines personnel, which made me very popular. As the armed forces wound down, sailors from all over the country were transferred through the 4th Naval District, then shipped to Bainbridge, Maryland. Well, if somebody I knew came through, I was able to give them a discharge right on the spot. Recall. Have you ever closed your eyes and tried to bring back yesterday? How different it really could happen. Yesterday would become today. I could think of a million things I could have accomplished that seemed unimportant at the time. When I think back, what was unimportant then could have changed so many minds at this time. I'm referring to our high school band and our band master, Mr. Sneath, who also enlisted in the Navy. So we got a new band master. If I remember, his name was Mr. Rolander. He was a great musician, but he didn't know much about march and drill formation. So I sort of gently took over, not to ruffle feathers. I started all our games by marching the band on the field and throwing my baton over the goalpost and catching it. on the other side. This got a roar out of the crowd. And we played the Notre Dame fighting marches. We had 50 people in the band. I must say we were darn good. We marched down the field in a big V for victory, not only for the game but for the war. We also got members of the band to start a swing band, and we copied Glenn Miller's style. We played at all the dances. I couldn't read music, but I could play by ear. I faked it a lot on the alto saxophone. The rest of the band knew I was faking a lot of the time, but they wanted me to stay on. Back to the main story. One day when I went to get my white uniform for the day, I opened the closet and my white uniform was pink. June had washed it with our baby's clothes, which turned my whites pink. While having only one white uniform, I had to wear my blue uniform, which put me in big trouble. And I had to stand guard duty from 12 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning, and then ran around trying to buy a white uniform. When I think about it now, I have to laugh. I think she felt worse than I did, but I should have told her it was okay. We lived with June's mother and father in a townhouse. We called June's mother Baba. She was a tough, well-mannered, and I think attractive person. She drove me to the train station every morning and cooked my breakfast. We all got along pretty good. Recall. I went to June's cemetery plot, the Veterans Cemetery. I didn't go to work. Something was bugging me, so I took my shower, got dressed, and drove to the cemetery. I didn't notice the landscaping when we originally drove there. It was like driving through beautiful scenery, because breathtaking. I thought to myself, this is exactly what June loved. Open space, horse farms, countryside. I finally got to the entrance and drove through. I stopped a caretaker, and luckily he knew exactly where June's grave was, which really shook me. How did he know her plot was in the last row of the section L? There's one grave next to hers, then some grass in the road. On the other side of the road is the woods. In back of her plot is a U-shaped garden with peat benches, which I sat on in deep thought. There 7 men were weed whacking around the gravestones between the rows of monuments, edging them. As I was sitting there, a bird flew right in my face, in front of me, and hovered like a hummingbird just a few feet in front of my face. The bird did not move, even with 7 mowers going. It was so strange. It flew away and then came back to me, then hovered again. Everybody just stared and looked at me and the bird. I finally regained my senses, stood up, and the bird left. I got in the car, turned on the radio, and the song which came on was our favorite song. It was almost like June was trying to tell me something. It was so weird. I will never stop going to see her in the cemetery. I'll never forget the moment.